Dr. the Honourable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and Mrs. Rowley, Ministers of Government, His Worship the Mayor of Port of Spain, Alderman Joel Martinez, the Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Mr. Foley Augustin, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Chairman of Angostura Holdings with us this evening, Mr. Terence Barrett, directors and executives of Angostura, Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Alvin Hilaire, the Chairman of First Citizens, Mr. Anthony Smart, distinguished guests, members of the media, good evening, and welcome to the closing ceremony of Patriotism exhibition, which this evening is courtesy of Angostura Holdings Limited. As we begin, direct your attention to the screen, to our viewers who are with us as well on TDT Limited, as we share a journey and the history of Angostura Limited and the work of Angostura through the decades in Trinidad and Tobago. Let's watch.
Journey through time across the globe with Angostura. In 1824, Dr. Johann Siegert, in his efforts to create a medicinal tincture for stomach ailments, invented a product that would take the world by storm, Amargo Aromatico, known today as Angostura Aromatic Bitters. Dr. Siegert would not have known that his formula would become a staple product within the food and beverage industry, or that it would add the very zest that would make a cocktail complete. In 1875, the Siegert family would move their company, JGB Siegert and Hijos, from the Venezuelan village of Angostura to the city of Port of Spain, in Trinidad and Tobago. Operated by Dr. Siegert's sons, Carlos, Alfredo, and Luis, Angostura Bitters would grow into a world-renowned product, with distribution expanding to the Caribbean, the United States, and England. As cocktails grew in popularity, Angostura Bitters was growing in notoriety as a must-have ingredient. From the Ritz in Paris to the American bar scene, the product was swiftly gaining recognition abroad and picking up awards along the way. Recognizing the need to make its own rum, as alcohol was a major component in the production of bitters, the company erected its own distillery in Laventille in 1948 and created a company called Trinidad Distillers Limited to operate it. In 1955, our bitters received a royal warrant of appointment from Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. To date, we are still the only company in the Caribbean and the Americas to hold such a prestigious title. As the company continued to make strides into the rum business, it acquired Fernandez Distillers Limited in 1973, bringing on board a product line with local appeal and legacy. It would later complete its consolidation of the manufacturing of bitters, rum blending, and bottling at the Fernandez compound, Laventille. In 1985, the company received two unique honors. A visit from Queen Elizabeth II, who toured its newly expanded distillery operations while on a state visit to this country, and the Hummingbird Gold Medal for its contribution to industry, the first company in Trinidad and Tobago to receive this award. With its eye always set on the horizon, at the turn of the 21st century, Angostura launched an international range of rum products in France and England. This included Angostura 1919 and Angostura 1824, two premium rums which continued to win awards on the international scene over and over again. In 2007, Angostura Orange Bitters was introduced to the market, the first innovation in bitters since 1824. The next expansion of the bitters portfolio would come in 2020 with the introduction of Angostura Cocoa Bitters, which uses Trinidad's very own high-quality Trinitario cocoa in its production. With high demand for our novel products, Angostura has kept up its expansion into new markets and development of new products, such as our Angostura Chill, a line of non-alcoholic beverages, a range of flavors in our White Oak brand, ultra-premium and limited edition rums, all of which reflect our traditions and history. As the world moves, we at Angostura hope to move with it, exploring new cultural domains with products that match, while keeping our legacy intact.
Congratulations once again to the House of Angostura. Give them a round of applause, of course. Proud partners in the presentation of patriotism for 2020 on the occasion of Trinidad and Tobago's 60th anniversary of independence. Without any further ado, will you please welcome to address you the Chairman of Angostura Holdings Limited, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Terence Barrow.
Thank you very much. Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Mrs. Sharon Rowley, Clerk, Government Ministers, His Worship, the Mayor Alderman Joel Martinez, Mayor of the City of Port-of-Spain, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, the Central Bank Governor, Dr. Alvin Hilaire, Chairman of First Citizens Bank, Mr. Anthony Smart, fellow directors of Angostura, acting CEO of Angostura, Mr. Ian Forbes, executives of Angostura, distinguished guests, members of the media, good evening to you all. We stand together here on the grounds of Millefleur, the property that ages in excess of 110 years. I am sure you would have been noticed when you entered that we have cast you back in time almost to the 1900s, and you would have seen the beautiful roses, the bouquet, and many of the characters around the grounds. The ambience, the aura of an era gone, the history has been recreated tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We must never forget our past, for it is where we came from. It molds us into who we are as a people, and it is a reference point at times in our existence to examine and reflect upon, reflections that are meant to ground us back to reality. Some of the pieces of art exhibited at the three venues are in excess of 100 years old. Some of the artists displayed have gone to another place, but their creativity and their passion for expression are left untouched for all of us to enjoy. In each of the three venues, the Whitehall, Stallmeyer's Castle, and Millefleur, of course, art is displayed and has been since the 25th of August this year. I must thank the Honourable Prime Minister for conceiving of this exhibition, a most befitting forum to showcase the restoration of these iconic buildings and precious collections of art from the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, the House of Angostura, and First Citizens Bank Limited. Angostura has been collecting art for several years. Some of our pieces are quite old. One, in fact, dates back to 1875, a painting of Dr. John Seekert, a piece which is featured here at this exhibit. The collection at Millefleur features 60 pieces of original art from some of our renowned local artists such as Bosco Holder, Carlisle Chang, Karen Sylvester, and Dermot Louison. The exhibit itself depicts some of our country's rich and diverse culture, its people, and its heritage. The buildings in which these exhibits are featured are themselves pivotally important in the preservation of our colonial heritage and stand as lasting monuments to the benefit of our population and visitors who traverse their footprint. In a world full of modern creations, we have been thrust into a computer age, almost like a slippery slide, so steep in descent it moves seamlessly without stopping. It just seems as if time evaporates. Old technology fades so quickly, as if it never existed with each passing year. And we constantly get the word thrown at us it's obsolete. Time to throw it away. That's the new word that pervades our society, obsolete. Each day, new technology replaces old. And the instrument that we had before that we thought was so grand becomes no longer relevant. We live in a social world dominated by media. Our phones have become so irreplaceable in our daily lives that being without them makes us feel naked and vulnerable. Losing access to the internet worldwide would be unthinkable and perhaps, I dare say, a mammoth catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. Fast forward from today and the world will be radically a different place, I assure you. Soon, mechanics working on gasoline automobiles will become obsolete. Retail store attendance would be at its barest minimum. Medicine, law, and engineering, with all the computers available to us, will now become a thing of the past. People will access information from computers rather than individuals. Consultation with people will become the exception. Customer banking at branches will be restricted to absolute necessities. And the computer age, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to say, is poised to control us. I raise this not as a wake-up call, but to demonstrate that despite all of this, the relevance of deep-seated history, tradition, reputation, and longevity of intricate processes will never fail. I regard Angostura's development and evolution as being deep-seated in history, and I advance the proposition that our very existence and success goes counter to this cyber explosion. Like the art that surrounds us at the three venues, the buildings that make up this magnificent seven, Angostura has held firm to its core values for over 198 years. It has remained focused on consistency of product. It has used traditional ingredients in its production in a highly technical setting and maintained its connection with its founding heritage. Our brands can be found in 172 countries around the world. We are rooted in Europe, the Middle East, Africa, Asia, the United States, Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, Austria, Italy, Singapore, Bahrain, the Nordics, Norway, Switzerland, Iceland, the Netherlands, Malaysia, and South Africa, to name a few. Our foray of signature rums have captured the global market and is high in demand, with connoisseurs who appreciate the exquisite quality of our dark blends and the meticulous production and tasteful packaging that Angostura is well known for. Our exclusive limited edition rums have set the stage for our expertise to be displayed in the world stage. Legacy by Angostura is notably the most expensive rum blend in the entire world. It is described as a great sipping rum, and the average price of our legacy rum is $35,525 US. In July of 2022, Angostura launched its rare ultra-premium Zenith private cask label, a limited edition rum of just 195 bottles, which retails for US $3,000. I dare say out of our 195 bottles, we've sold over 100 bottles so far, and we sent one to Her Majesty the Queen, now deceased. The Trinidad and Tobago has been exposed to the world as our aromatic bitters is recognized in over 170 countries. And we are continuously looking for new markets as part of our international expansion drive. I'm proud to say that above all, we export our brand under the Trinidad and Tobago banner, flying our flag proudly and using valuable opportunities to showcase throughout the world the spirit of our carnival. We've always sought, when we send advertising material abroad, to ensure that we include things about Trinidad and Tobago and its carnival. The late Queen of England granted us a royal warrant for our bitters in 1955, which is the pinnacle of recognition for brand, and one, I might add, that is 100% manufactured here on our home turf. There are currently only 800 warrants in the world, amongst them the most famous car maker, Bentley, representing a diverse cross-section of companies in trade and industry. And I dare say I am extremely proud as chairman to say that we are one of those 800. Ladies and gentlemen, the aviation industry will change. The motor vehicle industry will change. Medical treatment will change. Banking, law, engineering, IT will change. But there's a special, unique quality of Angostura that moves through time, indelible as it is infallible. Like the pieces of art displayed here, our fascination with history will protect us from the word obsolete. We have maintained our original formula in the main with our bitters manufacture for 198 years. Our rum making is still done in traditional barrels, with our coopers working by hand on the wooden barrels. In our bitters manufacture, we still only use the purest of botanicals. Our master blender still locks herself in a secret room to blend the ingredients for bitters to be created. And after all these years, she still appears covered in dust when the door is opened to let her out, having created the master blend. Is history still relevant to Angostura? We answer, yes, a resounding yes. You see, when the world moves to driverless cars and there's space travel commercially for passengers, we at Angostura will still have our master blender, covered in dust, and will still be bringing in molasses to make rums. Our coopers will still have their tools in hand to make their barrels because, like art, like these buildings, there is something to be said about maintaining history as part of your manufacture process. For art and architecture, as well as the entrenched process for the creation of our bitters and rum, will always be relevant in this world. Our nation celebrates 60 years of independence. The Republican Constitution has been with us since 1976. And we marry these events as recorded with our presence here tonight as we close the art exhibition, which I dare say, Prime Minister, thanks to you, has been a resounding success for our people and, more importantly, our children. I understand that more than 1,000 people have passed through these halls since the art exhibition started in this building. On behalf of the Board of Directors and the entire Angostura team, I thank you, Prime Minister, for being a pivotal part of this running event. And I wish by the same token as well to extend our thanks to Mr. Brian McFarlane, who has once again outdone himself in every respect with his absolute brilliant creativity. I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to enjoy the evening, and I now invite the Prime Minister to approach the podium.
Thank you very much to the Chairman of Angostura Holdings Limited, Mr. Terence Barrett. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, would you please welcome to address you and bring the curtain to a close on this Patriotism 2022, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honourable Keith Rowley.
Thank you very much, Chairman Barrett. Thank you very much, Wendell. A very good evening, fellow citizens all. Permit me to acknowledge in our presence my cabinet colleagues, the Minister of Tourism and the Minister of Social Development, are the two I've seen, and if there are any other, thank you very much for being here. As you know, the Parliament is still in session at this very moment where the national budget is being debated. But I've taken the opportunity to run away here to greet the executive of Angostura and to welcome all our distinguished citizens who have come here for this signal moment this evening. I understand, I heard his name, but I understand that the Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly is here as well. I'd like to extend my recognition to him if he is here in person. And also I would like to acknowledge one particular artist in this Patriot exhibition highlight and culmination. That is my wife Sharon, who is here with me this evening, who is an artist by talent. I'm an artist by acceptance. I want to make a very special acknowledgement of the very many members of the art community who are here. Many of them are here with us this evening, our distinguished artists, and if I mention Carla Harris and many others who are here, all of you, I particularly acknowledge your presence, and I'm pleased to be able to address you in an event like this. But I wouldn't do the national effort proud unless I tell you how we managed to be here in this building, in this location this evening. This building, which we call Mille Fleurs, has a very long history. But its most recent history is the one I want to talk about. When we came into government in 2015, it was a very difficult period. Very, very difficult. But in that very difficult period, as in most periods of adversity, the human spirit has to soar and prevail by looking up. And we looked at these buildings on this street in Queen's Park West, and the cabinet took a decision that if we do nothing, as we had to do many things in that very difficult period, which continues, we must find the resources to ensure that we do not allow further deterioration of the Magnificent Seven and the President House. And in that environment, we came upon the engineering assessment of this building. And the assessment was that this building could not be saved, and therefore it had to be pulled down. The foundation had gone, and there were very many other defects on the building. And that was a very difficult decision for the government to take. So I asked the government of Cuba, who by circumstances have been forced over the last so many years to be specialists in preserving old buildings. For those of you who've been to Havana, you would see what has gone on there. And the government of Cuba immediately responded, sent some experts and some craftsmen. And when they came, within a matter of days, they said to us that the building could be saved. And when we saw the cost at which they could save the building, we immediately agreed to have it done. And tonight, I want to extend, by way of this public acknowledgement, on behalf of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago, a hearty thank you to the government and people of Cuba, particularly the Cuban ambassador who took this as a project to get it done for us, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And if you have a difficulty accepting that thank you is required, imagine that here was an empty space as a parking lot, which I'm sure it would have become, for a while at least, if this building had been pulled down. Today, I'm sure that you all will expect and hope that your great-great-great-grandchildren would someday be in the position that you are in tonight to stand in the presence of this piece of history and this legacy of the people of Trinidad and Tobago that came so close to being obliterated. That program of protecting and saving our legacy extended to Killarney, which is what we call Stallmeyer's Castle, Whitehall, which is functional now as the office of the Prime Minister, the hall and all of QRC, which have been repaired, and of course, for those of you who have had the opportunity to go to President's House for whatever reason, the glorious presentation of a legacy building worthy of the name President's House exists today in Queen's Park North. And add that to the Parliament building of Trinidad and Tobago, and you'll understand why I felt no pain when the gathering outside the Parliament yesterday was shouting, "Rowley must go." I can go now and feel that I've done my job as every man and woman is expected to do his or hers in Trinidad and Tobago. There's something else I want to say to you tonight, and that is, we as a people have difficulty in accepting ourselves as world class. Sometimes for a few moments we can, but I'm sure most of you here tonight would have gathered and would have learned something from Angostura's presentation of the history of Dr. Sigurd and Angostura. Because Angostura is one of the things that makes us world class. And of course, you have Dwight York today, his first job as manager of a football team in Australia, winning the Australian Cup. And Brian Lara is in India taking part in a Legends cricket match. Ladies and gentlemen, there are very many instances where we are world class, but we are also having difficulty accepting that accolade because you are required to become world class in very many more, as we are world class in our steel band, as you'll hear later in the evening. So I want to thank all the people who agreed for our 60th anniversary of independence to put on this exhibition, what we call Patriot, where these invaluable pieces, these priceless pieces of work, which resided in the inner sanctums of FCB, the boardrooms of Angostura and Central Bank. And for the last month or so, we had them on display for the average citizen to come out in this location, in these heritage buildings, and to marvel at our production at the individual level and at the national level. Tonight, I want to thank FCB for putting forward their selection at Stallmeyer's Castle, Killarney. I want to thank Central Bank, and a special shout out to Governor Alvin Hilaire, who's here, and his team for putting on your selection at Whitehall. And of course, I think Angostura decided to put it on last, be here tonight, because of course we're going to close this session with a sip of the best rum in the world. And if not the best rum, certainly the best bitters in the world. Thank you all. When we asked that this be done as this very special event for our Jubilee, every single person who was approached said yes, and how can I help? And I think with that spirit, we were able to allow thousands of persons to have come through one or all of these exhibitions, particularly the hundreds of students, many of them art students, many of them the experts of the future, who one day will have their pieces hanging somewhere in this country or somewhere in the world, who came to view the exhibition, and all those persons who extended their feelings as to how proud they were to be in the presence of their national legacy put there on the walls by our artists. Particularly, I would say, the 100 students who came from Speyside in Tobago, and the busload of students who came from Moruga, and the teachers who came with them, who left here enthused. Permit me to acknowledge the work and the enthusiasm of one particular officer, and that, I would say, is a household member working with UDICOT, but a member of the household of the Prime Minister at St. Anne's, Wendy Rock, who, without her, none of these things would happen. I want to say a special thank you to Wendy Rock, who is our can-do woman, because all we have to do is to tell Wendy what needs to be done, and Wendy knows who will do it, and Wendy knows how to get it. Thank you, Wendy, and thank you for the team that worked with you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very special occasion. This street is a very special street. Your presence here tonight is a very special acknowledgement on your part that these small things are the big things that are important to Trinidad and Tobago. And I trust that this will not be the last time that we'll put our art on display in public in Trinidad and Tobago. I know all of you, Angostura, Central Bank, and others, you have other pieces that you would love to put on show. We will have to create the environment on which we will do so. But I have one admonition for you. I'm tired of taking the blows alone. Doing these things is no vanity on my part. It's the duty of the office that I hold. When those who are unable to appreciate these things speak in the limited intellect of their malice. You are required to speak up for what is right in Trinidad and Tobago and what we should defend in Trinidad and Tobago. And when you do that, the nonsense about buying the Casabon painting is because of the Prime Minister's vanity will be seen for the folly that it is. And when they tell you that spending the money to save these legacy buildings is the Prime Minister's vanity, it would be seen for the folly of that speech. But when we stand together as we did to agree to do this, we demonstrate that spirit that will soar to becoming world class. And I look forward to the National Trust making this kind of event, either in part or in whole, a regular feature on the agenda of Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the team at UDICOT, for which I have the pleasure of being the minister responsible for UDICOT, on behalf of all those who made this possible, take in the grandeur of this building, taking the threat of its loss, taking the fact that we've saved it, taking the beauty of our art and the imagination of our artists, and imagine Trinidad and Tobago as it is presented to us tonight. Thank you very much and enjoy the evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, our thanks to the Honourable Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago for gracing us with his presence this evening, especially as he is, quote-unquote, still on duty tonight at the Parliament. Thank you to Mrs. Rowley for being with us. The exhibition is available for each of you as guests here this evening of Angostura to view. The ushers will, of course, ensure that you comply with the requirements for entry. And for those of you joining us on television, we are going to share the delights of the National Steel Symphony Orchestra as part of our live program. Thank you for being with us. And from all at Angostura, again, happy 60th anniversary of independence. Enjoy the evening and celebrate who we are as citizens of the beautiful twin island of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. God bless you all.